When a Sony WH-1000XM4s got announced, I was very much eager to get my hands on them. Unfortunately, it took me a very long time to get a press sample, and now that I finally have got them, I'm going to be curious to see how they've progressed from the XM3s, how they compare to some of its competitors, and if it's actually still worth getting these headphones. Are they the best ANC headphones money can buy? Well, in this review you're going to find out. Now, they can be found for around £300 in the UK and around $280 in the US. Also worth bearing in mind, they're also often get on discount, so you might want to tactically purchase them on Black Friday deals, for example. Now, the links in the description below will take you to your localized Amazon stores, and also down there you'll find alternative suggestions that you might want to consider, including the Bose NC 700s, which I've got over here, which I'll be referencing throughout this review. Now, in the description there is also links to my social media platforms, and yes, that's a shameless plug, but if you're on Instagram, on Twitter for example, it'll allow you to keep up with the reviews. And furthermore, if you do like this video, give it a like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification. On a separate aside, if you're interested in all electric or hybrid news or reviews, check out Totally EV. I'm essentially producing a new car review every single week, and it's definitely worth tuning in for that as well. So to kick things off, what you get in the box is the headphones themselves, a quite stylish case, and they're available in a few different colors, by the way, so if you don't like this cream color you can get them in black as well. And you've got a Type C to Type A cable, it's very, very short, and an airline adapter, and you've got a 3.5mm cable which has got a right angle jack on one end and straight, which would go into your headphones. There's no inline mic, just as an FYI, and in terms of overall battery life, what you should expect is around 30 hours with active noise cancellation enabled. Furthermore, they also support quick charge. In other words, you can plug them in for around 10 minutes, and Sony claim that you'll get around 5 hours of battery life, which is pretty insane if you think about it, if you want to do that before you're going out on a journey. Now, there's a right and left indicator within the headband, and on the left hand side you can see there's a 3.5mm jack, and there's also an on and off button and a custom button. Now, we'll talk about the custom button in just a bit. In my case, I've just left it to default, which effectively cycles through ambient aware and ANC, and if you want it disabled. And the on and off button, well, does what it says on the tin. Now, you might be wondering, where are the media controls? Well, they're located on the right driver because there's a pad, and if you were to swipe across effectively, it means that you can adjust the music. So you've got the volume controls, previous and next, and you can double tap as well if you want to play pause, and you can also activate the assistant. If you were to put your hand over it, this is a feature that was previously on the XM3s, you can also listen to your environment around you, which is quite handy if there's, let's say, an announcement on the tannoy. Now, before we get onto the features, and I'll show you through the app, I must mention in terms of the build quality and the design, and here I've got no issues whatsoever. It feels less creaky than the XM3s, and the finish as well doesn't seem to have this, well, kind of fabric-y type of material to it, and therefore seems that it will stand the test of time a little bit better, at least from what I think. Now, the pads themselves are nice and cushiony soft. I have no issues wearing them with glasses, as in reading glasses at home, and furthermore the headband sort of clamp, at least for my size of head, is actually quite perfect. So therefore I can use them on a run, and equally I can use them at home without feeling uncomfortable, which isn't the same that I could say about some of its competitors. The top of the headband is also nice and cushiony soft, and you've got a headband adjustment which should fit most size heads. The headphones themselves also fold inwards, so making them a little bit more portable, and also outwards, in other words, for you to place them flat as well in their case, or let's say if you've got a laptop bag. Now, onto the app and the features that I wanted to talk about. Well, it's quite plentiful because you've got quite a few different things to choose. Now, first off, I should mention, in terms of your Bluetooth menu, at least if you're on Android, you'll want to go through the Bluetooth menu and enable LDAC, and you can do this through the settings cog, and you can enable or disable LDAC. Now, why would you want to enable or disable this? Well, purely because if you go onto the sound mode, should I say the system mode, you can see over here it says connected to devices simultaneously. Now, this option is not available if you don't have, if you have LDAC enabled. If you were to disable LDAC and therefore go to the AAC or SBC codecs, then you can connect to two devices simultaneously. Just a little FYI, and something we'll be touching upon further down in this review. But back to the app, what you can see through the main part is you've got adaptive sound control, which I never really liked, but if you like to use it, you can do so. It can learn where it is, and it also has wear detection, which is a new feature on the XM4s in comparison to the XM3. So each time you take them on or off, they can play and pause your music, and you can disable this if you don't want it either. Now, as for the main interface, it shows you what the music is playing. You can see I've got Bruno Mars over here. And in terms of sound tab, you've got the ambient sound control. So you can enable or disable that, and you can adjust the level that you want, and furthermore focus on voice or not if you want to. In my case, I like having full noise cancellation or having it completely disabled through that toggle button. There's also the speak to chat feature, which I actually find quite interesting and effectively means that it has a voice detection. So if you were to say hello, then it will effectively pause your music or lower it down and then allow you to hear your surroundings and also hear yourself a little bit, almost like a hear through. Now you can adjust the sensitivity and also focus it on your voice or not, and you can also change how much it pauses for. So after you've stopped talking, you can have it for, let's say, 15 seconds, or do not close automatically, whereby you'll have to manually resume your music by tapping on your headphones or going via your phone. Now elsewhere you've got this noise cancellation optimizer, which will depend in terms of your environment. In my case, you can see it's been optimized, and it basically takes a picture of your ears as well in order to optimize that as well for the 360-degree type of sound that you can enable. Now in my case, I don't use the apps that have it. You have a 30-day free trial about it. For me, it's not something that I would see myself using, but I can see it being a rather cool feature, specifically if you like to watch movies or listen to music via certain apps. Now the equalizer function for me is very important, and you can see over here I've got a manual EQ. I've set the 2.5 kilohertz and the 6.3 kilohertz bands a little bit higher and left the rest pretty much to default. This will be completely up to you in terms of customization, and we'll talk about sound quality further down in this review, but it's nice to see a manual equalizer function which then gets baked into the headphones, which is quite good to do when you're moving through different devices. Now the sound quality mode, you can prioritize sound quality or the stability of connection, and this might degrade the overall Bluetooth transmission. And then you've got the DSSE extreme mode. If you want to enable it or not, you can do so through here. As for the system mode, as I mentioned before, in terms of the two devices simultaneous, you can also change the function of that custom button. So if you were to go on the settings cog, you can change it over here, and you can flick through, let's say, for example, if you want to enable Google Assistant or Amazon Alexa, and this also has support natively for Amazon Alexa, which is quite good. And for those people who use it, of course. Then you've got the automatic power on and off, and again the pause when headphones are on and off toggle. And then in terms of notification and guidance, I don't like having that enabled, but for some people who do, then you've got the option there as well. And you can check for your firmware updates if you go at the top and look into the information of the headphones. Ultimately, what this app is, it's pretty comprehensive, and the amount of features that are available to a consumer is just quite refreshing to see. So everything you can hear right now is coming directly from the Sony headphones, and the microphones are somewhat average. Now what I did find is that while it does do a decent job, while not exactly the best, when there is no sort of environmental sound, when you do have some environmental sounds, such as what my friend's song plays in the background, you'll be able to hear my voice and her voice as well at the same time. So for example, imagine you're in a crowded environment. Furthermore, if you were to turn away, so imagine my bookshelf speakers are there, you can still hear her voice in the background. So this is one of the things that I found with the Sony XM4, specifically when you compare it to some of its rivals. By comparison, here the Bose NC700, which still reigns supreme when it comes to the overall recording quality you can get from a set of over-the-ear ANC headphones. Yet again, in the same example, I'm playing Priya's song at the same volume as it was before, and I'm speaking while the music is there. If I were to go quiet, and now if I were to turn around while speaking, and again the music is playing from behind me, What you'll notice is that the differences are quite stark. In this respect, the Bose is able to cancel out the environmental sound far better, even when I'm not speaking, and when I am speaking, it really does hone into my voice rather than concentrating on the environmental sound. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say over here is, while the Sony headphones have improved in some domains, they really haven't improved the overall microphone quality, specifically when you compare it to some of its older predecessors, such as the Bose QC35s or the Bose NC700s. Now, another thing I should also mention in terms of recording quality is the fact that it seems to have some intermittent issues with the app I was using when it comes to recording. I've not really noticed this with any other headphones, and this sort of occurrence occurred when I had LDAC enabled or disabled. Now this brings me perfectly on to Bluetooth codec support. Now here, these headphones are definitely a step up over some other headphones on the market, whereby if you've got an Android device or a Bluetooth dongle that has LDAC support, it means these headphones will use Sony's proprietary LDAC codec in order to transmit ultimately the best Bluetooth transmission that you can get. If, however, you don't have LDAC support, these headphones support the SBC and AAC codecs as well. Now, in comparison to the XM3s, however, they lose the aptX support. In other words, there's no aptX or aptX HD. Now, this might not be of concern for mobile phone users, but for those people who are on a desktop computer, you might find that Windows devices don't natively support Sony's LDAC codec, whereby they seem to support or favor the aptX codec. Same goes when it comes to Apple devices. Some MacBooks, for example, support aptX, but they won't support LDAC, and I can't see them ever supporting LDAC, and as a result you'll be limited to the AAC or SBC codec depending on your device. Now this does have its implications in terms of audio quality playback, and one thing that really can't go amiss, and it's even factored in, as I showed before through the Sony app, is that if you want to simultaneously use these headphones with a separate source device, in other words, let's say your phone and your laptop, and you want to interchange, you'll have to disable the LDAC codec support for a variety of reasons, but it means that you're going to be limited to the AAC or SBC codecs only, which further emphasizes the point as to why Sony actually got rid of the aptX codec, where some users will have taken that degradation of audio quality over Bluetooth for aptX over LDAC, but yet had the multi-point connect, which would have been really nicely appreciated. Now elsewhere, I am using my custom EQ profile, which I showcased in the app function, where I essentially boosted up the mid-range a few notches because I felt that brought the mids a little bit more to the foreground rather than leaving them a little bit more recessed. Let's break it down in terms of each frequency brand. So first off, in terms of the sub-bass frequencies, here I feel the Sony headphones were renowned, as in the XM3s were renowned for their low-end shunt, and it's very much the case in the sub-bass frequencies. It remains unchanged. It does extend in the lower-end frequencies, however there's a little bit of a cut-off. In comparison to audiophile grade headphones, these headphones can't compete, but for ANC, well, flagship ANC headphones, they're far superior in terms of the lower-end tones in comparison to, let's say, the Bose NC700s. Now the mid-bass, on the other hand, is actually a little bit more tight and a little bit more controlled than I was actually expecting. The reason I say this is because the XM3s had a little bit of an uncontrolled mid-bass response, and while the XM4s are actually like perfect in this domain in comparison to, let's say, the likes of the Sennheiser Momentums, but they do a much better job in portraying a little bit more of an accurate mid-bass tone, which makes them, well, just sound a little bit, well, less boomy in comparison to their predecessors, the XM3s. Now, this does have also a knock-on effect in terms of the lower mids. They sound a little less recessed and a little less pushed back. While they won't compete again with the likes of, let's say, the Sennheiser Momentum headphones, which have got very forward-sounding mid-range tones, here the Sony XM4s actually sounds really good, in my opinion, at least for the music I was listening to, so R&B and dance music. I felt that it did a really good job. Specifically, if you add a little bit of EQ, those mids do come out a little bit more than you might have expected. So you might want to tailor it and play around with the EQ functions and tailor it to your exact music that you're listening to and, of course, your own ears. The upper mids, again, were pretty good, and actually I was surprised when I was comparing them like for like with the Bose NC700s, Where Bose is kind of renowned for having a good mid-range tone, the XM4s actually held their own and were very impressive and provide an engaging tone. Now, very much on that notion, the highs provide plenty of excitement and life to your music, something that couldn't be said about some of its competitors. In this respect, the XM4s allowed me to enjoy, let's say, Bruno Mars's 24K Magic and kept a smile on my face while I was listening to it. It doesn't sound too sibilant or harsh either, and furthermore just gives you that good sort of blend, and yet again, due to the EQ functions, allows you to play around with it and tailor it to whatever your preferences are. As for the soundstage, it's got a little bit of an intimate type of sound. I would say here, in comparison to other ANC headphones, only the Sennheiser Momentums potentially have got a slightly wider and deeper sort of sound stage, where in comparison I can't think of any other closed back ANC Bluetooth headphones that can really compete with the Sony's instrument separation. Here the instrument separation is done very well, and I must say I was very impressed, and again kept me engaged and excited with the music I was listening to. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say over here is that the overall sound quality that you're getting from the XM4s is very similar to the XM3s, but is a little bit refined, specifically in that low-end tone, and therefore gives you a little bit more of a well-rounded sound signature without sounding dull or boring. So whatever Sony have done over here in terms of the driver optimization, and furthermore the fact that you've got the EQ functions via the app, is a definite plus point for me. Now, of course, one of the most important parts is its ANC performance, and here is where the XM4s really shine, and in comparison to any other Bluetooth ANC headphones on the market, I can't think of a better set of headphones which will be able to not only cancel out the low-end tones, but also the mid to high frequencies given its built-in chip, which is, again, built by Sony. It's a proprietary chip by Sony. In comparison to the NC700s, I felt that they're just far superior, both in terms of cancelling out low-end hums that you'd hear on an aeroplane, to people talking, or even rain or thunder noise if you're out in the environment. It just does a phenomenal job. And again, in comparison to the XM3s, they're very, very similar, if not a little bit of a refinement in the mid to high frequencies in their ability to cancel out those noises. So really, in terms of ANC performance, here we've got class-leading ANC performance, and one that till this date I can't think of a better alternative, be it for passive/active noise cancellation headphones. These headphones are still the king of ANC. So what I'm trying to say over here is that the Sony XM4s are pretty much the ultimate ANC Bluetooth headphones. If the only place they fall short is if you take codec support out of the equation, because that might not affect some people, is the fact that their call quality is still nowhere near to be compared to the Bose NC700s. And if that is a very high up on your priority list, then you should never consider the Sony XM3s or XM4s in the first place, because Bose or Jabra, for example, make far better solutions when it comes to call quality. But if you're looking for headphones that are great all-rounders, then the Sony XM4s definitely get my recommendation, and as a result actually get my Best Buy award. But that's just my thoughts and opinions about the Sony headphones. I'll be very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you've got any questions or whatever it might be, ask me down as well. Furthermore, if you want to keep up with the channel, and if you haven't already, do subscribe and hit that bell notification, as it will allow you to see videos pop up in your YouTube inbox. Alright, I've been Totally Dubbed. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye.